Okay, right. I am gonna start doing some videos going through particular clients of mine, struggles or situations that have come up in the last couple of days, maybe a week, to help give you guys some tips to put into practice that you can actually implement straight away, which will make a difference to you being able to stay on track whilst you travel for work, right? So today's and the first one I'm going to do is something that came up with my client Hugh. Okay, Hugh has been in the program maybe 2 or 3 weeks now, so he's very new, and we are currently just really building some momentum with his food tracking, estimating. I'll go into that a little bit later. His training and trying to have a baseline of activity per day. Right. So we're going to go over a situation that arose where we potentially could be more accurate when it comes to him staying in hotels whilst he was away on work trips, eating at buffet breakfast, and how we log these these foods, these meals, so that we can best stay on track. Right. So let me just tell you a little bit about Hugh. So Hugh he works in real estate finance, right? He set up his own company. It's fairly new, but he's got over 20 employees now, and he's obviously, the owner. He runs the company. He is in a role of very high responsibility. He is the leadership role within the company, and he works across multiple countries throughout Europe, including London, Madrid, Amsterdam, and a number of other places, right? And the biggest thing he was missing was that feeling of confidence in his own physique, but also energy and consistency. He needed those things. He needed a schedule that he could remain consistent with around his pretty hectic lifestyle, right? Where he's all over the place, in terms of locations, in terms of meetings, different clients, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So he needs to get his energy where he wants it to be able to deliver daily and really take his company to the levels that he wants to take it to. Yeah. In terms of travel, as I said, he travels internationally most weeks, right? He could be away for at least a couple of nights every week. It could be Tuesday to Thursday, could be Tuesday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, whatever that is. But most weeks, he's doing some sort of travel internationally. All right. Quite often that involves early flights, meetings, lots of client dinners, back-to-back meetings, like all day, staying in hotels, eating out the majority of the time, if not all the time when he's away, and lots of flights, of course, right? And the big things he kind of struggled with, just as you can probably relate, listening to or watching this, is you know, like just a pure lack of routine, just a straight up lack of routine, and having no daily habits that really kept him on track when with that lack of routine, right? Nothing to kind of keep him on the straight and narrow. No anchors, no go-to habits or things to do daily in the morning, maybe to keep you on track. Um, and things just unravel very quickly. When he made a real effort to stay on track and do the right things, like one little thing would always completely end up unraveling everything, and it would lead to a few days or a week of just non-existent kind of progress and efforts, right? And it's a negative pattern that's very hard to get out of. Another big struggle as a result of the work he does, the people he meets, and the places he go, the travel, is that kind of eating out and social drinking pressures that come with meeting clients, trying to socialize and build relationships, build rapport with different clients, right? And it straight up is just not realistic to remove those things altogether. And so it's all about needing that management of those situations to make sure that he's not taking away that relationship building kind of aspect of the job, but managing things in a way that helps him with his health, his fitness, and controlling his consumption. Another big thing he's really struggled with is inconsistent training, and I feel like everybody who's listening to this, watching this, who can relate to it, Hugh's kind of travel situation, you'll know, right? You string a good couple of weeks together, and like before you know it, like everything falls apart. You can't get to the gym for a week, you can't do training, and when you do have some time available, maybe you're just straight up far too tired, stressed, and you skip it, and skipping one day leads to 2 days, then a week, and then a month, and it just snowballs like that. And so, but the one struggle that we're going to focus on today is the food decisions, right? Those kind of misjudgments or poor food decisions that can happen very easily, especially when you're constantly in hotels, airports, you're surrounded by a hell of a lot of temptation and going out to nice restaurants, right? This kind of thing. And you've got people around you that aren't necessarily on the same path as you, don't have the same goals, and so actually won't be trying to make better decisions. And when you're surrounded by that, it makes it very hard not to, it makes it very hard to continue to do that in the face of people doing what feels more natural and what's easier, right? So, it is easier to eat when he's at home because, he says his wife cooks a lot of the food and it's easier to manage it that way. It's more controllable. But when we're away, when we're traveling, snacking is a big thing, and often snacking on very calorie dense things without realizing it, like nuts. And having big, heavy evening meals, and there not be really being any limit to them, And so lacking a bit of structure that allows him to enjoy these meals out, these situations, um, but also to work with it, and that's what he needed. That's what he really needed when he joined the program. And that's what we're delivering right now. But in terms of this podcast, YouTube video, what we are really focusing is on breakfasts at a breakfast buffet. Okay, and hopefully as a result of this, you'll be able to take something away, action it, and really have a better idea of how you can stay on track. But remember, one caveat before I go into that, like when you are in these situations, no one's going to be there to stop you grabbing the extra bacon, stop you grabbing the pastries. These are the tough decisions that when we commit to something like this, we really have to follow through with it. Otherwise, you simply won't make the progress. We have to be willing to change and make those difficult decisions, knowing that when we do, it will get easier to make because we'll start to see the progress. But it can't just be a one-off. It has to be consistent, good decisions with a clear strategy around that. So, in terms of the philosophy within the program, you may or may not already know, I believe that calorie tracking is the best way to lose weight, become more aware, learn what to eat, what's in food, and how to manage things. But with obviously guys like us, like you guys who travel a lot, that is very unrealistic a lot of the time. But it doesn't mean that it isn't the best method to build those habits and build the knowledge. So within the program, when we're at home, we look to be as accurate as we can be, but also when we're away, the food tracking doesn't stop, but it just comes with less pressure. It comes with less need to be accurate all the time, and it comes with more estimation, right? And over time, this will improve, but it's a commitment that we make to do it, right? Because we need to know how to manage this, manage the foods we are consuming long after we finish something like this, right? For life, so we can stay in shape and only progress, right? Instead of going backwards. Because a lot of diets, when we just cut out a random food group or we stop eating during a certain period of the day, that doesn't teach us what is actually in foods. It doesn't teach us how to actually eat to change the body composition and why we're eating like that. It's important to become as aware as we can, especially for guys that travel, right? So, what I noticed was Hugh had been logging his food, and at the start of the process, especially, I try and get guys to send some photos through so I can check what the kind of image looks like compared to what they're logging. And he sent me through this, and the breakfast he had logged was simply he just typed in. And this is completely fine, by the way, especially at the start when we're just building the ha habit of logging in amongst our busy travel schedule. He just typed in poached eggs, avocado on toast, right? And had selected one that came up, which was about 350 calories. Okay. And obviously, this meal, I looked at it for a second, I thought, I feel like that's quite a big underestimation. And, ideally, we want to be as accurate as we can or get accurate, more accurate over time, right? And so it was something I went back and I queried and I said, look, um, we want to, this is a skill we want to improve over time. So what I would do in this situation and maybe try this next time, that was kind of option one, what he did. And the next best option would be to actually log the individual ingredients. And on this plate right here, it's pretty evident as to what the individual ingredients, right? It's not like a shepherd's pie or like something where everything is just mixed in, like a lasagna, these kind of things. So it's simply, I was like, right, I'll do this, see what we get, and we will um, compare the numbers, right? So if you're listening to the podcast, you obviously won't be able to see these images, but I said, right, we'll log two poached eggs, brilliant. Two cherry tomatoes, one slice of wholemeal toast, three rashers of streaky bacon, and avocado. And I would, you know, it's hard to tell in the picture, but yeah, avocado is obviously a very calorie dense food. When we have it at hotel buffets, they're usually going to add some oil, yogurt, cream, um, additions like that, maybe butter to make it taste nicer. And so when I had kind of gone through the ingredients, logged the individual ingredients, I kind of came to the total of about 650 calories, so nearly double what had originally been logged, right? So that's kind of step number one to improve your awareness of what you're consuming, right? Is go through and log the individual ingredients. And yes, it takes an extra 30 seconds, but it really isn't a difficult thing to do, right? While we're walking back up to our room, um, to go back to our room to get ready for our day after the buffet breakfast, right? Um, but one thing that is even better than that, an even better option, what we can do is even if we're not logging it 100% accurately, we can make sure that this is where building our anchor meals comes in, right? Because what Hugh can do now is, we can log the individual ingredients. I would always, with a meal like this, eggs, bacon, these kind of things, is log maybe a tablespoon of olive oil as well, because undoubtedly there is going to be some involved in the cooking process. And we can make this one of our anchor meals, right? So we can work it out, log the individual ingredients, and find out roughly what we think this number would be, right? We then create a breakfast anchor meal. We can then replicate this as often as we can, and then log the same number, right? Log the same amount, log it in the same way. We can save the meal in MyFitnessPal if that's the app you're using, and we can just replicate that. And if for whatever reason one day it's evident or noticeable that maybe the avocado has additional stuff in, there's more avocado, the pieces of bacon are bigger, then we can simply just add an extra 100 calories onto it using the quick add feature. Or we can obviously relog the individual ingredients, but here we're trying to make this as easy as possible for us. And Hugh will now have this image, right? This image of these two plates with one with bacon on and one with the eggs and avocado toast on, and he can refer back to that if he's unsure. It'll take him 2 seconds. Save a folder in your phone with anchor meals, labeled anchor meals. You can go back and you can go, right, yeah, maybe that is a little bit bigger. I'll add it a little bit more. And after a couple of times doing this will be automatic, right? It will be really automatic. And so it just gets easier. Just like any habit, it's hard to do at the start. We have to force ourselves to do it at the start. But the more we do it, the easier it gets and the more automatic it becomes. And as a result, the better the progress we're going to make. Big tip I said for Hugh as well, was to next time he's at home on the weekend, go and replicate this meal at home. Make this breakfast at home, a slice of toast, eggs, avocado. Actually weigh the ingredients, the bacon, and log it exactly as we make it at home with the exact ingredients. All you got to do is once, and you'll learn very quickly. Whoa, I was underestimating that amount of avocado, or the bacon was way more calorie dense than I thought. I logged a much less fatty version, whatever it is. Okay, but the big thing going forward for Hugh is now he will hopefully go and implement that at home. Next time he's at home, he'll make it once and then he'll have a much better understanding. He'll now use this as an anchor meal when he goes and stays in hotels. This can be one of a few, but it's quite common breakfast, right? And so he can rinse and repeat this, just eliminating an element of error within our food tracking over the course of the day, right? And I think he's now in a great position to, log his breakfast more accurately going forward. And ultimately, that will mean that we can get his calories in a position where we know exactly what they are, or as good as we can. His weight, as well as the steps, the training we're doing, his weight will then either hold still, go up, go down, and we can manipulate things from there. Right. But the hardest thing for men who travel is to just get that initial idea of what kind of is in foods so we can actually start to get an idea of our overall daily intake. Because remember, that is the most important thing um, when it comes to losing body fat, but doing it in the right way so we don't sabotage muscle mass, so we can do it gradually, so we can make sure we stay as energized as we can for the workday, for all the travel. And this is how he's logged it in there now, right? Individual ingredients, poached eggs, individual. Again, on the podcast, you won't be able to see this, but I'm showing Hugh's MyFitnessPal entry of his breakfast on that day. He's logged the avocado, about 260 calories of avocado. I think that's pretty good considering taking into account, what might be included in the avocado. He's added a tablespoon of olive oil, and the three strips of bacon, right? So that's much better. And now we've tweaked it. We just stay consistent with it. We stay consistent with it. And even if we are now out by a little bit, it's not the end of the world, right? We just need to remain consistent. So Hugh's benefiting from being in the program. We're tweaking things, making things more accurate, having a better idea of how we remain aware of what we're consuming. Going forward, super excited about his progress. But if you could relate to any of Hugh's situations, his struggles as a result of his work travel, if you head into a breakfast buffet and you think, Jesus, I don't know where to start. I always go out of control because I don't have a plan. And I just kind of get a bit crazy and kind of indulge a bit too much more than I should, more than I know I should. And you leave the hotel breakfast buffet feeling guilty and like, losing weight probably just isn't possible. I don't have the discipline. You do. You just need a plan. You just need the right support, and you need to become a bit more aware. So let me know in the comments of the YouTube. Drop me a message on Instagram at Jacob Connock Coach if you're listening to the podcast, and let me know whether you found this helpful and if you want more content like this. And I'll catch you on the next one.